Hi everyone, it's Nicole Noahsad here. I'm back with a new Tuesday post. Today I'm going to show you some tips on how to use those Beanboard alphabets in a couple different ways. So the Beanboard Alphas are a new product that came out this last winter at CHA, and they're probably one of my most favorite things that Jillibean's come out with lately. They're a really great font, which is actually the same font as the mini Alphabean stickers you might be already using in your stash. Obviously, they're much larger, but you'll see that the font is exactly the same as those bottom alpha beans there. There's also uppercase and lowercase in your package, and there's a couple other fun features that I'm going to show you. So I just want to show you a quick comparison of the new Beanboard Alphas to the old style Jillibean Soup chipboard alphas, and I have a set here. So the Q there is the new version, and those ones right there with the mesh kind of print on the front is the old style. So obviously, the first thing is there's a different font. So like I mentioned earlier, it's based on the alpha beans. But probably the most exciting thing is that these aren't your regular chipboard alpha. These letters are so thin and pliable. They're probably about half of the size, if not more, like more thin than the old chipboard alphabets that you're used to. So that's really fun to add to your projects. You don't get a lot of extra bulk. And as you can see right there, they're double-sided. So you get the color on both sides. So if you're a pocket style scrapbooker and you want to use XOXO, for example, on one page, it'll actually show through in your album on both sides. So that's kind of fun. So here, let's get started with a couple techniques. So the first thing is obviously very easy, and that's just to add stamping to add a pattern. So I just chose, for the purpose of this video, just a simple polka dot stamp from Hampton Art, and I'm just going to use some StazOn ink and quickly stamp to the letter. I chose StazOn just because I'm paranoid that the slightly slippery surface won't take the ink. I haven't honestly even tried another kind of ink, but if you can give it a try, just be careful you don't touch it right away. And you can use different kinds of stamps. I use the polka dot because I love polka dots, but you can see I also tried it out with a chevron, and it looks great on all different colors. That's the teal color and the red. So next is the embossing folder. Now, not only does this add a great pattern, but it also adds a nice texture to the alpha bean. And so I have a Cuttlebug, but if you have any sort of embossing machine, this would work great. So if you do have a Cuttlebug like me, you need your 8 plate and your 2 B plates in order to do this, and your embossing folder. So with any embossing folder, one side is raised and one side is flat, and I'm actually putting my letter onto the raised area, which will make those polka dots pop up through the Beanboard Alpha. And I'm just going to run it through a couple times because my B plates are, as you can see, very, very worn. But really one pass is enough to get the texture that you want. And so there you go. That's what it looks like with the polka dots. And they're cute just like that. I love them just like that. Now, if you want to touch that up a little bit, you can just use a sanding block or a piece of sandpaper and just very, very lightly, you don't need to put any pressure really, and just sand off those raised areas. And that will make the polka dots kind of show up a little bit more. But you don't even, like I said earlier, it's not necessary. They look cute just on its own. Now here's one that I did do with a bigger polka dot. And you can see on one side it's debossed and the other side is the raised, obviously, depending on how you put it in your embossing folder. And I just sanded it off so you can see the difference. Now, of course, you can just take your sanding block also and just sand around the edges. And I have to apologize for my camera that went out of focus. But if you just run a sanding block or around the edges very lightly, it will take off part of the color and you'll have a fun distressed edge for your project. Now the next one is if for those times when you maybe have a couple different colors of letters and you want them all to look the same, or if these alphas just aren't the color you want. And so we're going to use embossing powder to solve that problem. So the first thing you need is a stamp pad, and I'm going to use Versamark, and I'm actually going to use gold embossing powder because alpha beans don't come in gold yet. I'm not saying they will, I'm just saying it would be good, right? But I have this letter here, and I'm just going to press it into my Versamark ink pad. And you don't need to use your fingers like me. You could obviously use tweezers or something like that. And then generously coat it with your gold embossing powder. And I'm just going to dump the rest of it here back into my container. And then I'm just going to heat emboss it with my heat gun. And it won't take long. to heat up and change into gold. Now, one thing I just want to tell you while this is heating up is sometimes you have a product that will bend while you're heating it. This doesn't. This just stays really flat, and so you get a nice golden color in this case, and you can't see the color that it was before. So now let's talk about adhering these bean boards to your project. So the first thing is really easy, and that's just to use a stapler. So I have a tiny attacher, and I have already chosen a number that I've already dry embossed and sanded it a little bit to show those polka dots. And I'm just going to take my tiny attacher and just quickly staple it directly to my project. One staple is enough because these alphabets are really thin, but I just like the decorative part of having two. But really one is enough. And you can see I just quickly added it to my tag there, and I'm ready to finish my card. Now, obviously my most favorite way is to quickly sew through the chipboard. If you've ever sewn through a chipboard alphabet in your life, you will know that it's not the easiest thing to do. You will know that you will break a sewing needle really, really easily, and you'll probably get frustrated. Well, this is not the case when you sew through the bean boards. That is one of the best parts about these, is they're really easy to adhere. You can see here that I'm just really sewing it quickly through my machine with no problem whatsoever, and I haven't broken a needle yet. Because they're so thin, it makes that just so much easier. And you can see it doesn't have big holes, it's just nicely sewn together. So let's review what we did today. So we did a couple different techniques and different things to add to your page. So the first was the stamping, and here's just a quick comparison of two different kinds of stamps you could use. And here's a really detailed embossed look. You can see it takes the tiny details really, really well. You can also do a debossed look like in the letter Z there, or Z. And that's what it looks like on the reverse side when you have a raised edge that you've sanded off. You can also sand around the edges of your alpha bean to add a distressed look, or you can take some embossing powder and change the colors altogether if you have some random pieces or if they just don't match your project. And you can easily adhere with glue, but why not add some staple or maybe some sewing to your Beanboard Alpha Beans and finish them off really pretty. So thanks again for joining me today, and thanks always for joining us on the Jillibean Soup blog. We have the best fans.